Hello and welcome to another episode of BW Marketing World's new interview series in partnership with Kaizen. BW Marcom Power Talks, conversations that drive the next big moves. This is the series where I talk to corporate communication and marketing captains about the latest trends, changing role of communication leaders, new change strategy, and a lot more. Today, for this dialogue, I'm joined by a very special guest, Miss Deepali Naair, who is the Group CMO of CKA Birla Group. In the past, she has served as CMO for IBM in India and South Asia. Welcome, Ms. Nair.
Thank you, Resham, for inviting.
In today's business environment, we understand that marketing leaders are navigating a landscape defined by constant change, rising public scrutiny, and significant shifting stakeholder expectations. The role of corporate communications has moved well beyond just messaging. It now sits at the intersection of reputation, risk, and especially long-term value. As Indian brands face tighter timelines, aggressive growth targets, and an always-on digital public, the pressure to deliver in short term while protecting the long-term brand equity has never been more intense. So, Dipali, in today's dialogue, I will kind of push you to share insights about how marketing is evolving in response to these challenges, what new capabilities are being built, and how the function is reshaping itself to stay relevant in a world of where reputation is both a strategic asset and a daily risk. Uh, to start with, now I would want to talk about crisis management. This is something that's not new at all. This has standard rule books. There are standard rules, fundamental rules that needs to be followed. But beyond that, what are some of the strategies to deal with this in new environment where reputational threats can emerge overnight from unexpected places? Talk about that, Deepali.
Thank you, Resham. I'm going to refer back to what you said, which is that the roles are changing. The communication team has to be responsible both for the short term as well as the long, right? What I'm seeing is there is an integration happening of the brand captain, the marketing captain, and the communications captain. I think you cannot do with three captains. I think it needs to be one integrated role where one person leads brand corporate communications, as well as marketing. Now, that does require that you have a person who's experienced in all these three disciplines. There may be, therefore, senior people who need to seriously develop those skill sets. I would openly say this, I got the opportunity of looking after corporate communications at the midpoint of my career, when I was with HSBC. So I've done it in financial services, for many, many years, and at Mahindra Holidays. And, here I am, of course, at CK Birla Group. That's a key part of my, responsibility across different categories, be it education, healthcare, and of course, I've grown up in sales and marketing and, worked on brands. I would look for, therefore, if I was recruiting for, now a brand captain, come marketing captain, and a corporate communications captain, I'd look for somebody with my kind of profile, multidisciplinary experiences and multi-category experiences. Because the second shift that's happening is that you are no longer secluded and say, oh, healthcare will only have these kind of crisis, or that, manufacturing companies will only have this kind of crisis, or that financial services will only have this kind of crisis, right? And even marketing and brand shifts that are happening are not any longer, of one type happening, for one category. So I think that's one shift that's happening. The second thing I would say is that brands need to be authentic, the self-governance, focus on, inclusivity, focus on sustainability, whether that has been in your DNA or not. I think all boards, all CEOs need to be conscious of, the efforts that are proactively happening inside, your organization. So I think a proactive approach, to efforts which demonstrate that your brand is really cares, that your brand is really authentic, matter. And I think tactically, the other preparation that you require is that if you have influencers, be it media, be it on social media, be it big influencers or small influencers, I think building a relationship with them in good times, matters a lot. So I think that would be perhaps part of my, third strategy.
Very interesting, very interesting. Now we just briefly mentioned about how environment is pressuring everybody for quick wins. Marketing teams today are under constant pressure to deliver quick wins. Maybe it can be leads, maybe conversions, maybe traffic, especially in very competitive and investor-driven sectors. But how do you build long-term value with that and consumer trust in this environment? This was the part of our conversation I was most looking forward to. Talk to me on what can be a strategy where a team can uh, able to balance the short term pressure in order to manage and deliver the long term value.
So one is that you need to come and work with me in my team, okay? So that you learn. Okay, no, okay, jokes apart. I think this is a very different question from the first one that you asked me on crisis communication. I think this is an overall business question. This is what you hire marketing teams for. This is what you hire business development teams for. This is what you hire sales teams for, which is, ultimately uh, have long-term value. Why am I saying sales teams also? In the B2B context, for example, I always say this to every salesperson and sales leader that you are the front runner in building the brand. What you end up saying to the customers, potential as well as existing, is the most important thing, and no advertisement, can ever negate the personal conversation that sales team or client solutions team or delivery teams in a tech company or the customer service teams in financial services, or the medical care team in a healthcare institution. They are the ones who drive the brand. The experience that they create, the conversations that they do, are the ones which will actually make for long-term value, will make for conversation and therefore the buzz about the brand, you know, and will even drive tactical communication. Now, when it comes to non-service led brands, so, product brands, manufacturing brands, be it FMCG or even white goods or, brown goods, I think there, the long term and the short term need to be balanced. Today, beyond advertising, beyond, social media management, beyond influencer led marketing, to, let's say, moments marketing, right? And also ensuring that the pre-sales experience that the customers have today, and I'm talking about CX there, I'm talking about customer experience, needs to be of unmatchable value. And once again, you need to derive analysis and examples from across categories. So for example, my oft given example is that uh, I do not say that, look, this is a bank and therefore this level of service is okay, right? Or that this is, my washing machine vendor and therefore this service level is okay. If I, as a customer, have gotten used to 24 by 7 service, if I've gotten used to the fact that, like, look, I can interact with brands on WhatsApp and register my complaints, or if I've gotten used to a certain kind of, problem solving online, then it goes across categories. So that principle of learning across categories, remains. Um, Now, balancing short term and long term, I think the classic question of, delivering leads or, delivering, anything in remarketing or, in those areas. I think that's a question of having experienced teams who've done it before, where you ensure that in the short term, you don't do anything that compromises the long term. As long as you can do that, you know, I think if you're offering, for example, even discounts, how you communicate that, or how do you package, discounts, which is the best example of, short-term, promotion that you can do. I think there again, keeping the principle in mind of how you're ensuring the long-term value for the brand, is very, very important. I hope I've answered your question, Resham.
very, very clearly and very extensively, because it covers all, not just from the marketing perspective, but it covers all. Now, you mentioned about how the frontline workers, be it the salesperson, be it the product delivery guys, or in medical XYZ, are the kind of makers of the brand name or the brand reputation. Now, the idea of brand reputation or brand name used to be about major ads across media. But today, it now includes being culturally sensitive, platform aware, even choosing when not to speak. And that's where it comes, the reputation management. How do you define brand building today? How are companies rethinking it, and in an Indian context, that it increasingly being vocal is important, but also to be aware and conscious of when not to speak in a very polarized online era. How do you look at it?
Once again, I think what is different is for service brands and B2B brands, I'll club them together. And for the non-service led brands, okay, I think it's no longer just about advertising. You said it yourself, okay. Anything that is driving the experience of the consumer, the way your website is laid out, the way you manage the queries on your website alone can drive, customer experience. But wherever they have interaction with your staff, which happens in the B2B brands and in the service brands, I think that experience today is perhaps superseding the actual, communication. I mean, just imagine yourself, you go inside a hospital, right? The way they talk to you, the way you don't stand in the line, the way the doctor treats you, the way they write out their reports and give it to you, the way they do a follow-up call, the way they do their billing, it cannot change. uh, if you're if that experience is bad, the best is bad, the best advertisement cannot change the brand's reputation, right? But what needs to be done is the advertising or communication needs to match the experience. Now, this is where I'm also a proponent of the fact that, the customer experience teams and the brand teams need to align, together. There are cases and there are examples of companies where the chief marketing officer is technically the chief customer experience officer, and certain categories may actually need that. But the alignment. Now, if you actually offer a great technology experience inside, let's say, your bank, then the bank's communication also needs to, keep the promise within that. Because otherwise, the great technology experience can also mean sometimes less human touch, right? Now, you need to build that relevant communication for you as a brand. So it can't be, incoherent. They need to be, in coherence. And more importantly, I think the chief brand officer, the chief marketing officer needs to define that. The defining is very important. And then keeping up with the changes that are happening. Like today, for example, whoever I speak with in the marketing community, whichever CEOs that we are talking to, I think all of them are saying AI is bringing in a lot of change in the customers, life, the way they're thinking, the way they're experiencing things. How do we ensure that we stay ahead or meet with the customer's expectations when it comes to the changes that technology is, bringing in?
So far, what you're highlighting is that apart from all the ways and all the media of marketing and showcasing a brand, or building a brand value or brand face, customer experience is at center. That can't be compromised at all. Now, we were briefly talking about reputation management. It was, I mean, in today's time, with narratives forming in real time across hundreds of platforms and languages, what does effective reputation management look like in 2025? We understand that there are foundational rules, being transparent, being honest, being quick, being accurate, or a multiple of that, right? There is a foundational rule book for that. But how different is this strategy, or let's say a rule book, in 2025?
I think I've highlighted about the integration of various functions. I think further, what I'd like to say is that we all need to think how tech can help us. Because technology will make our life uh, both complex and easy. Why complex? Because we're dealing with fast changing customer expectations, right? Not just high expectations, but fast changing customer expectations. And therefore, it becomes more complex because we need to, as a brand, ensure that where we are present, what we say, what we deliver, right? All that is in consonance with their expectation, right? Where it becomes easy is that we also have tech tools available for us to monitor reputation, to understand customer experience, to do a deep dive from time to time at the highest level possible. Inside boards, CEOs, all of us now have tools. I'm not just talking about MarTech tools. I'm talking about BI tools, for example, right? So all that information is available to us at the press of a button. So we must employ and deploy technology to ensure that we keep track of what's happening in our environment. The quick changes, though, according to me, and the way it spreads after that, the accelerated value, the accelerated way in which the good news as well as the bad news spreads, I think is a huge change for any CEO or a board or a marketer to deal with. You just have to be on your toes.
I mean, what is your thought on good or bad is always the publicity, the phrase we use the most. Most people kind of advocate that a lot, but what is your view? Do you have the different view to that?
I don't know what others say, but my view is that it needs to be balanced. I think you need to communicate with your target audience, understanding that not all of them are same in today's world. Technology has made it possible for us to segment, customer types. So there is the customer and there is the consumer. I mean, I may be an FMCG brand, but I also need to address the retailers, for example, right? So I think a balanced view is extremely important. Um, I don't think you should overdo it, and I don't think you should under communicate either. That's one. I think the second thing is go back to the basic principles of being authentic, where you constantly communicate to people to tell them what you stand for and therefore what you deliver. I think the other opportunity in being balanced is in communicating what's coming and what's going to change in advance. I think you need to prepare. It's possible today for you to prepare both your customers and consumers if there's going to be a change so that people are not surprised by the change. Maybe that's different from what others say, but I think once you're ready, you must tell people the change that they're expecting. You can't, I think these days you can't just slip it in. And fourth is uh, very important that your CEOs, that the board is prepared for that conversation. Sometimes it requires a face. It can't be an unseen body or an unseen message from a brand. These days, brands are very strongly associated with people brands, as I call it. So, be it your CEO, be it a board member, be it a founder, be it some industry captain, be it your CXOs, depending on the organization that you are, I think they need to be prepared to, drive the communication for the brand.
Loved it. Loved it. The way you explained it, loved it. Just the final question for our conversation now. The expectations from marketing today are far greater than before, not just to run campaigns, but to influence culture, manage stakeholder trust. I mean, also uh, be in line with what board expects or what our customers are expecting. There's a lot to do. Tell me, in your observation, the role is evolving. In your first bit of your answer, you have covered it. But to the extent, tell us, where do you see a scope of work, irrespective of the sector? If you observe a CMO today, where is the scope of work you see today, and what would be your advice?
I can only tell you this that the scope of work is increasing. Everything that a CMO did earlier remains. Okay. So, brand, advertising, consumer inciting. What am I missing here? I think all that remains. But the two new areas that have clearly gotten added is one, like we discussed earlier, the whole customer experience bit. Okay. And in the last 3 years, 1 year at IBM, when I was looking after a sales delivery center, and 2 years being a group CMO, one more area of integration that has emerged is actually the employer brand. Both in the service and in the B2B industry, and even in manufacturing, there's going to be a talent war, right? All of us say that there's going to be a talent war. There is not going to be. It is happening as we speak, right? Now, if that is the case, then the employer brand also needs to be very strong. So the interesting thing is that who knows the skills of marketing the brand to a target audience? The marketing team, right? That's not the HR team. The HR team, of course, knows what to say to them and how to retain them. They know the tactics and the strategies. But the communication of the brand, the strategy of which media, how to use, which vehicle to use is with the brand team. So, in fact, very interestingly, I have been driving a document, which is, somebody told me I must write a book about it, on what is the integration points and what is the framework for employer branding to be done. What are the things which is HR's responsibility and what are the things that ought to be marketing team's responsibility? So that's one new area. I'm going to leave you with that, Resham, in terms of how has the scope of work changed over the last few years.
Very interesting, Deepali. Just the final bit of it, it just struck me that when we talk about employees, there is a new set of employees coming in, Gen Z. I mean, that set of people is having a different style of working. There has been a debate going on different platforms. What would be your advice to the younger set of the people who are joining marketing as a function?
Okay. I think my advice is a function of my personal experience. Okay. And this is both for young as well as for old. My advice will not change. Knowing your consumer is the only way that you will communicate well. Now, whether you are doing a DM or an email or a tweet or a post on LinkedIn or an advertising piece or writing a press release, all the things that I do in my daily life, okay, or writing a speech for somebody or looking at the message that needs to go in your annual general meeting of the company, knowing your consumer is the only way that you can get it right. And what does knowing mean? I think the audiences today have made customers and consumers into data charts, okay, and look at only transactional behavior. People go from this side to that side is the online behavior, or that people buy like that. My request to everyone, if you want to succeed, is go touch and feel the consumer, go watch them, go interact with them in the context of your categories. And I got onto the digital bandwagon much earlier than most CMOs, but the value of going and meeting with the customer and the consumer still holds true for me till today. Okay, I walk out into the market. I speak to the dealers, I speak to the distributors, I speak to the customers, I actually go and interact with the consumers. And the value of learning and understanding that I derive from real people cannot be replaced by any data chart and report. You need the data charts and the reports to ensure that your hypothesis that you form by meeting, let's say, 15 consumers in a year, then you come back and say, okay, my reports also tell me either the same thing or different thing that I need to investigate. But I think that'd be my one advice to everyone. Do not stop meeting the consumer because you think you have a report that you can go through.
So, adding to what a lot of India's or world's top leaders keep saying, that talking with real people, getting real insights cannot be compromised and cannot be taken over by AI or any tech, so to say. And you said it makes it more even stronger. And certainly it has been an insightful conversation. I got to learn so many new things. On this note, I wanted to thank you so much for your time, for making time for this. I look forward to more such dialogues with you. Thank you so much once again, Deepali.